I had gum graft surgery and a frenectomy 3 weeks ago, and I want to share with you everything from the procedure all the way up until how I'm feeling right now. So first of all, if you come to this video because you are about to have a gum graft procedure done, so sorry you have to go through that. I will say it was not as bad as I was expecting, so I hope that this video can ease your nerves a little bit. So, starting off with the procedure, I had the option of either local anesthesia or like an oral anesthesia, and I decided I would probably just be better off doing no anesthesia besides like the local numbing anesthesia. So that's what I went with. I will say the morning of the procedure, I was feeling a little bit anxious, a little bit nervous. I think that mostly was just coming from the fact that I had never had this procedure before, didn't know fully what I was walking into. But once I got in the chair and they did that like first round of local anesthesia, I just felt the anxiety kind of go away, which was amazing because I was like, okay, we're doing this, it's starting, I'm getting numbed, it's gonna be fine, I'm not gonna feel a thing. And when I tell you I did not feel a thing, I did not feel a thing. I feel like incredible is a weird way to put it, but like just the fact that my doctor was very on top of keeping me numb and making sure I was not in any pain through the whole entire experience was really incredible. I had a mouth surgery and I was awake for all of it and didn't feel a thing. So very thankful for that. Overall, my procedure went really well. I couldn't tell you the details of exactly how they do the procedure. I do know that they have to do something to prepare the area where the new gum tissue is going to be going. For me, I used my own tissue to make a gum graft. So they used tissue from the roof of my mouth. I know they took that out, and I know that they stitched that tissue to my original gums. I'm sure you could find something on the internet that is much more descriptive, or maybe if you're the type of person who really likes to know what's going to happen during your procedure, finding a video of it. I am just not going to be able to provide you with all of that. One thing that I do recommend that you do that I actually heard from some forum that I was reading online about people who have had this procedure done before, especially if you're not having sedation, bring headphones and ask your surgeon if you can listen to music or a podcast or a show or whatever you want to listen to. It was so nice to be able to just kind of block out the noise around me. For me, I chose to just listen to like comfort music, so I think that also helped calm my nerves and my anxiety a little bit, was just listening to that music, having that play through my head rather than hearing the hustle and bustle and rustling that was happening around me. The worst part of my procedure actually had nothing to do with the actual procedure itself. I thankfully got a retainer to protect the roof of my mouth post-op, and we had done an impression of my mouth a couple weeks prior at my initial appointment, and I had my headphones in, so I don't really know what happened, but it was like midway through the procedure. They were about to do the like removal of the tissue from the roof of my mouth. I could tell that they were talking about the retainer, but because I had my headphones in, I couldn't hear what they were saying. And then my surgeon got up and the tech came over. She was like, okay, we're just gonna do a new impression. And I was like, oh gosh, okay. She put the tray in my mouth, and immediately, first of all, I'm like laying upside down for the like tissue removal part of the procedure. She puts the tray in, and instantly I'm like gagging. Like my gag reflex is on another level, and I was like, oh my gosh, like tears streaming down my face. Just awful. And they're like sitting the chair up. She's like, lift your right leg, lift your left leg, lift both legs, uncross your legs. Just trying to like distract me, but it just was not enough. So we had to do it a second time. And this is a very random fact that I probably learned in like middle school. I don't know how the topic of conversation came up about this with my friends, but I remember being with my friends and one of my friends bringing up that if you hold your thumb really, really tight in your hand, it like cuts off your gag reflex. Maybe not fully, but it like, I don't know if it's like a pressure point or what it is, but I pulled this information from the depths of my brain for them to do the second impression, and I did not gag at all, thankfully. So just a little tidbit. I don't really know how that works or if it works for everybody, but it worked for me. We also did some little leg exercises to give a little bit of a distraction. Surprisingly, that was definitely the least fun part of my procedure. My surgeon came back into the room and she was like, I'm so sorry we had to put you through that. And I was like, no worries, like it had to get done, it's all good. So I'm not really sure how or when this happened in the procedure, but I did have a lip tie. I had a frenectomy done during this procedure as well, which is basically where they just release that lip tie. I was talking to my girlfriend who's a dental hygienist prior to the procedure, and she was like, they're either just gonna snip it and stitch it, or they are going to basically cauterize it with a laser. And I don't know what they did, but I don't have a lip tie anymore. So that happened sometime along the way. But once the procedure wrapped up, they did bring in my new retainer, and I will show you. This is what it looks like, which was placed to cover the roof of my mouth, had nothing really to do with my teeth. It's actually a little thinner and more flimsy than retainers I had after having braces. So truly, it's just like a covering. It just helps to protect the roof of your mouth from your tongue or food or anything like that in the days and weeks following the procedure. So on that note, I want to talk about what the protocol was for my post-op experience. A lot of this I was actually told at my initial consultation appointment, but was reiterated to me on the day of my procedure, and I also went home with like a handout that explained everything as well. For the first 2 weeks, I was only allowed to eat soft foods, which initially I was really just doing like yogurt, applesauce, mashed avocado, and honestly that was kind of it for a few days. But by soft foods, they didn't mean like liquid foods. It was more just like what you can tolerate for the first few days. And then after that, you can do like a really well-cooked vegetable, fish, pasta, but just nothing crunchy, nothing that takes a lot of chewing. Because especially for the first few days, they really wanted no movement from the lower lip. My parents sent me some applesauce in like those squeezy pouches. I actually found that those were the best option when it came to like opening my mouth, because I didn't have to open my mouth very far, and I just swallowed the applesauce after it was in my mouth. So especially at night when I was waking up in the middle of the night to take medicine, I would just keep one of those by my pillow and then just wake up in the night, squeeze it into my mouth, take my medicine, and go back to sleep. So I wasn't having to get up and get a spoon for a yogurt or whatever it was that I felt like I wanted to eat. They gave me a really soft bristled toothbrush, which even on the package it just says like post-surgery or post-op toothbrush or something like that. The bristles were just like so soft and flimsy, basically just to not irritate the gums at all. I was not allowed to brush or floss any of this front area for the first 2 weeks, which did not feel great. For the first 24 hours, I had this in and was not allowed to take it out. You're actually supposed to eat with this in. After the 24 hours, I was able to brush my teeth and brush this, and that felt much better. I was also only allowed to brush with mouthwash because you're not supposed to do any like swishing and spitting. So just brush with mouthwash, no flossing, and no swishing of like water or mouthwash or anything in your mouth, except I was supposed to be doing a warm saltwater rinse. I did it for like almost the first week, a couple times a day, and you weren't allowed to swish. So instead you would put the salt water in your mouth and then tilt your head this way and then tilt your head this way and back and forth to get the water all around, and then just like literally lean over the sink and open your mouth and let all the salt water come out. And then for my little retainer, I was wearing this pretty much all the time except for when I was brushing my teeth for 2 weeks, for 2 weeks straight. At 2 weeks exactly, which was my follow-up appointment, I didn't wear it almost at all that day except for when I was eating, just because for one, the roof of your mouth feels so funky after they take the tissue from up there. And I also, this is kind of gross, but I felt like my mouth tasted really bad when I didn't have it in. I know there are people who did not have anything like this, and I cannot imagine eating and talking or anything like that in the first couple weeks without one of these. When it came to medication, I was prescribed like a higher dose ibuprofen. I was also prescribed a few days worth of an acetaminophen / like codeine combination. Thankfully, I was able to just manage my pain with the ibuprofen. I will say I feel like I had a very positive experience with my procedure and recovery overall. So I know that it may not necessarily be the case for everyone that you can just manage your pain with ibuprofen. I was taking that every 6 hours, and I was waking up in the night to take it to make sure that I was not getting off a schedule, because I know as soon as you get off of your pain medicine schedule, it can be really, really hard to catch back up if the pain starts getting bad. So I didn't even want to risk it, even though it wasn't feeling terrible as the pain medicine was wearing off. I knew I needed to take it and just continue on that for as long as I felt like I needed to. And finally, on to the actual recovery experience. Day 1, like I said, overall, my pain was managed pretty well. Day 1, my biggest issue was bleeding from the donor site area where they took the tissue from on the roof of my mouth. It wasn't terrible throughout the day, but getting into the evening, for whatever reason, my mouth started to bleed so bad. Thankfully, my surgeon did provide like an after hours number that I could text if I needed to. Texted her and was like, hey, my mouth is bleeding a lot. What am I supposed to do? And she reassured me that that was all normal and to not be too worried about it. I was bleeding a lot to the point of feeling like a little lightheaded and just like nauseous from swallowing all that blood. But she did reassure me that it was normal, and all I needed to do was take the opposite thumb of the side that it happened on, apply pressure. She said for 15 to 30 minutes. I did it for like 10, and the bleeding stopped, which was amazing. I would say days 1 through 5 were pretty much just laying around, eating when I needed to take my medicine. Probably day like 4 or 5, I was eating more, but it was just like resting and recovering. And because I wasn't eating enough, I just wasn't having a lot of energy to do much. Towards the end of the week, I did slowly add in like scrambled eggs or really, 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 really cut up breakfast sausage and fish and pasta and stuff like that that's soft and easy to eat, that doesn't require a lot of chewing. I will say even later in that first week, eating just a little bit that involved me to move my jaw was really painful. Like, I remember the first time I had like a little sausage patty thing that I cut up really, really small. And by the time I got through one, I was like, oh my gosh, this hurts too bad. I like can't eat anything else. I don't think I mentioned this, but I was not supposed to talk for the first 2 to 3 days to limit the lower lip movement as that area was healing. If I was talking to Kiffer, usually it was either just like a yes or a no. Very mumbled one-word responses, or I was literally just texting him because I wasn't supposed to talk. One thing about my recovery that I was not fully expecting, that I have experienced with other surgeries and kind of experience on a regular basis, but not to this extreme, was being constipated. And when I've had abdominal surgeries in the past, they recommend a stool softener so that you are not straining your abdominal muscles. But I didn't really think about that my diet's gonna be changing. I am going through some sort of surgery, which is some sort of like trauma to your body. And I really wish that this was something that I had prepared for ahead of time, or like had something on hand ahead of time. But I would recommend some kind of like stool softener, even if you don't take it initially, but just like having it so that you can take it if you need it. Because let's just say I have never gone so long in my life without pooping. That was unfortunate because not only was I dealing with all of this, I was just feeling bloated and uncomfortable as well. So as I'm filming this, I am 3 weeks post-op to the day, and I have not been wearing my little retainer thing, the roof of my mouth. I don't notice it so much anymore, but I definitely do still notice how it feels. My gum line is a little bit tight with certain lip movements, but I don't think about it too much. The one thing I have noticed as someone who talks a lot for their job, even just filming this video, I feel like, I don't know if it's the roof of my mouth or if it's the tightness here or if it's the now lack of lip tie, but I do feel like I kind of stumble over my words a little bit. Like my mouth just feels different. That's definitely something I've noticed that's been like a tiny bit frustrating, but overall I feel really good. When I had my post-op appointment, my surgeon said everything looked really good. She did schedule me for another 2-week appointment, so I will go next week for that, just to follow up again to make sure everything is looking good. I don't think I mentioned this, but I did still have some stitches at my 2-week post-op appointment that they removed. The only limitation still is no really crunchy food, so like no crackers, chips, nuts, stuff like that. So, wow, if you're still here, thank you so much. I hope that this video was informative to you if you are having this procedure done. Like I said, I do feel very fortunate that I had a fairly positive experience. I hope that your experience goes just as well as mine did. If you have any questions, maybe something I didn't touch on, you can leave it down in the comments below and I'd be happy to answer it if I have an answer for you. Pretty sure I covered everything, so thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!